Hello and welcome to the SABIAN SEN Dom Famularo Mentorship discussion session. I see a lot of great friends coming in. Welcome everybody, including many of Dom's longtime students and friends. I'm going to be admitting people here and just giving everybody a few minutes to come in. Just off the top of my head, I see some Dom students in the waiting room here. I see Dave Stark, I see Steph, hey Steph, I see Dan Traglia. Jeremy Hummel, a longtime presenter for SEN, is here. Great. Awesome. Cool.
Boom, boom.
Oh, Claude Hoffman. Hey, Claude. And a lot of our SEN stalwarts. So thanks, everybody, for being here. Oh, great. I just let Sherry Maracle in, and I see that Tony Broadnagel's with us, too. So we have
awesome. Boom, boom.
Great. So just so you guys know, I have to let people in while I speak, and doing two things at once has never been my forte. So, guys, if you're watching, give me a wave if you see the panelists spotlighted a little bigger for you. Does it look like that to you? No, Dave, it doesn't. You see the panelists the same. You just see a big screen of everybody. Just give me 1 second here. Let's see. Actually, you know what? I think I'm gonna, if I do this, oh no, I can't do that. Okay, you know what? We're gonna go and I'm gonna play with that later. It should, does anyone see the panel bigger than the rest of the crew? You do, okay.
I think that's if you set it to speaker mode or versus gallery, I believe.
Right, okay.
Yeah, for those that are joining us.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So it might be on your end. Okay, good. All right, so we're going to get rolling. So this is our second discussion about the mentorship. So what the mentorship is, for those who don't know, is SABIAN has generously donated $2,500 US, that is, to someone that we will select as a panel in the spirit of Dom to receive that cash award. And then what sets this apart is they will also receive a 1-hour session with all of our panelists. So in addition to the gentlemen that you see here today, it was also the guests we had last time, which is Stephen Chamberlain and David Garibaldi. And also I forgot to mention that the Stone family, famous authors of Stick Control, they're donating a whole set of their books to the winner of the mentorship. And we're also honored today to have Dom's wife, Charmaine Famularo, our old friend, with us. So hey, Char, thanks for being here. So great. So I would like to get this rolling right away, and kind of a little bit of a theme today is to talk about the skills that Dom brought to the table other than his drumming, because he crafted a career that was so different from everyone else, and that led him to kind of encounter and work with some of the people who are the mentors in this. And certainly for those of us like Jim and Klaus and me who were students, he I don't want to say beat into us, but he definitely ingrained in us a very deep level of business skills and other things. So that's something we want to talk about. I see the great Fred Dinkins has just joined us from MI in LA. Hey, Fred, thanks for being here too. So I think what I'd like to do, and by the way, I'll share the link for the sign up for the membership. We're in the home stretch. So everybody that's watching, remember, this is for if you're 18 years or older at any stage in your career and you think this can help you. This is not a college scholarship. This is a mentorship open to anyone who's 18 years or older to apply and submit these 2 videos where you tell us on the panel why this would help you and what it would mean to you, and also a video of your playing. We've had some professionals apply, and you're welcome to apply. And you're also welcome to tell your 18-year-old students and college students they're welcome too, but it's not just them. That's the thing I want to keep hammering home about this. And we're in the home stretch, so get yourself or whoever you know to put those videos up so that we can get to the work of evaluating them right after the new year and selecting our first recipient of this prize by the end of March. So that's the plan. Great. So joining me today, we have Rick Drum, Klaus Hessler, Paul Quinn, Jim Toscano, welcome back, Jim, and President SABIAN, Mr. Andy Zildjian. So Rick, I want to start with you. For those who don't know, Rick's been an executive at several major music companies, among them Remo, Vic Firth, and Diodario. and he's a corporate and executive consultant with peak leadership teams. And Rick, I thought you could talk a little bit about how what drew you to Dom, and what other leadership skills did you see in him from early on, and did he develop in that way over the course of time working with him?
Yeah, I mean, I think Dom and I first met in 1983 at the Frankfurt Fair, and SABIAN's booth was right next to the Remo booth, and so Dom came over and introduced himself, and I could see immediately that this is not an average person, and I mean that in a very good way, but Dom wanted to know everything about me, everything that I did with the company, how I got there. It was just he wanted to know, and he genuinely wanted to know. And as we grew closer over the years, we became great friends. I was amazed that as a drummer, he had this extra high entrepreneurial drive. I mean, as musicians, we all have to be an entrepreneur to some extent, but Dom took it to a much higher level. And it was wonderful to see him carve out a space that prior to Dom didn't really exist. Yes, there were people out there doing clinics and giving seminars, but Dom created this space that was all encompassing. It was, yes, he was doing the clinics, yes, he was doing the seminars, yes, he was an author, yes, he was forging relationships with the various companies, but doing so from a perspective of, how can I help you, company? As opposed to just coming and saying, I want to do these clinics, and so I'm going to need, some clinic fees or whatever. But Dom was always from the perspective of creating a two-way street, so that it was win-win for all those that were involved. So I think that's what really drew me closer to him. I was artist relations manager and director of sales and marketing for Remo, and I was dealing with, like many people that are in that business, hundreds, if not thousands of artists. And I will just say that he really stood out in a very different way. And there were some great, great, great drummers. I mean, the best of the best. But Dom was, again, individual in that space.
Rick, is there something I just wanted you to talk about? You were obviously, with everybody here, really enthusiastic to donate some of your time to mentor the winner. What do you hope to share with whoever we select?
Well, from my experiences, I was inside the industry. I was also a professional player, playing with Ringling Brothers Circus for a couple of years and a whole bunch of jazz acts and stuff like that through the years. But and then I got into the industry side of it, and was able to get involved with product development and leading companies and team development. And then I got into my coaching practice. So along the way, I have gathered a lot of different experiences and a lot of knowledge, and what is needed to create a successful career in the music business and the music industry. And so, as a matter of fact, Dom and I, and also Shar, working on a program called the Essential Skills. And part of what we talk about, or a lot of what we talk about, is those skill sets that they don't teach in college. that are truly required to be successful in any professional endeavor and also in life. So things like communication, conflict de-escalation, networking, building your tribe around you, those types of things that are so important, that support system that are so important for you to become successful. So I would focus in on those things, and also I would also ask a lot of questions of the mentee and see what they really needed.
That's great. This is to have access to you and to Paul and to Andy, this really sets us apart. Obviously, you would expect to have great drummers like Jim and Klaus and Stefan and David, but this is, I hope people appreciate how meaningful this prize is going to be. But thanks, Rick. And you guys feel if you have specific questions for any of the panelists, type them in. I'll try to feed them to the gents and or to Shar if you have them. So Jim, let's jump to you for a second. I know you spoke a lot before, but specifically, if I remember this correctly, you were already kind of established working in New York when you met Dom, right?
Yeah.
So from your point of view, whereas I wasn't, I think Klaus and I met him really early on in our lives. So how did his teaching make your career grow? I wanted to kind of start there.
Yeah, I think just from the educator side of things, he opened my eyes to a lot of things that I never really thought about. So, just the initial thing, which I know he did with you as well, which is reach out to band directors and start, building like a school clinic type of marketing campaign. And so, he kind of opened my eyes to the entrepreneurial side of things, aside from just playing and following that path. He knew I was interested in doing more teaching, and I had a small teaching practice at the time, and he really helped me craft kind of the direction of how I needed to go, and kind of taught me to approach it as a business and not think of it as just I'm this guy that teaches drums, but more of wearing the various hats of marketing and actually, drummers are not great at business skills. So like elevating my business skills and accounting skills and kind of teaching me the importance of that. And then also kind of, I always mention how, we drew those big giant charts of like your name with branches, branching out to all the different hats that you're going to wear. The player, the drummer, the educator, the author. And then eventually Dom helped me even to pivot into that technology coach position, which, Dom being the ultimate student of life and drumming always, except for technology, not great, but he was a student of the technology thing a little bit. And when I'd be in the studio with him and he would get frustrated, he would just go, Toscano, just do it. I don't care. Whatever it is, just do it. Get me the dongle, get me the cable. But he really did help me to kind of focus into a more business set of skills. And that's something that, in my coaching and me as a mentor, learning that from Dom, I hope to pass that on. And I'm extremely organized when it comes to sort of business skills and marketing skills. So I can bring that to the table as well. So I think that really was one of the big things that Dom brought to the table for me personally.
Yeah, that's great. You jokingly talk about the technology thing, but actually one thing that Dom knew sort of instinctively is you need to be well-rounded in all these skills, but maybe you can't be an expert in every one. Like, so for instance, if you want to record at home, I'm trying to learn that. There's some artists who are like, you know what, I'm just going to pay an engineer because that's a whole. So jokingly, it's sort of true. Dom was like, okay, well, I have an expert who can help, and I'm not going to spend so much time on becoming an expert in that. I'm going to.
Right.
He would say delegate, but so it's not actually. It was a choice that he probably made.
Yeah, and in fact, I've kind of embraced that myself as well. There are certain things that I needed to have done in my business and in my studio. And so I delegate those things to the expert that's above me in that area, like networking, meaning, Ethernet switches and network stuff. So I've brought people in to help me with that. And, he's definitely, Dom planted the seed of the technology thing to begin with anyway. We all know that he was the first drum teacher really teaching online, I think. The only one that had sort of a funny little tech thing, a lot of guys probably know this, but Chet DeBow had the dial a drum beat thing where he had the drum beats on his answering machine. But Dom really was the first one doing, sort of dial up internet drum lessons. And, he planted that seed in me and I just ran with it. So, yeah.
That's great. Thanks, Jim.
Yeah.
Klaus,
Yes, sir.
congratulations on your clinic at PASIC this year. They're lucky to have you. So Klaus, being that you're, now you just, I'm such a huge fan of yours. You're respected around the world. You're an authority on not only rudimental playing, but every aspect of drum set playing, and your playing is at such a world-class level. I feel like your career could have gone any one of several different ways, and maybe start with what was Dom's influence on it. I mean, I think you would have become. You seem so great to me that you probably would have succeeded whether you met him or not. But what was his direct influence on where you went?
Well, I think, first of all, there were many things, but one aspect that really sticks out of all of these many different aspects is I understood how important the whole aspect of trust and integrity really is when it comes to a true mentor and teacher. I should say that, because a lot of times, people look into a certain teacher. Oh, this guy has just great technique, and this guy has great feet, and I like the concepts of so and so. That's all fine. That's great. But Dom added one extra thing for me, which made it, really some outstanding teaching personality, and that was his dedication to trust and integrity. And I remember, I'm sure it was in one of the first lessons that I ever took with Dom. He presented a paper saying, "This is my constitution, Klaus." And I truly believe, not just countries should have constitutions. Every single individual on the planet should have a constitution. Mm-hmm. And it's I still have that paper, and it says a lot of interesting things. Like, I will not go into details, but just speak the truth. Don't lie. Be honest. Things like that, which would be very easy, basically, but then out of this whole aspect of trust and integrity, you would understand, okay, here's a person in front of you that really stands by the word. If Dom says something, he does it. And above all of that, he plays incredibly well drums, and his passion for teaching and drumming is just something else. So he left me standing there just saying, I want to be like that guy. I want to be like that. And this sort of, I think, washed off to quite some of us, I would think. So you catch yourself saying words or saying statements, and in the back of your head it resonates. Oh, this could have been Dom, and I didn't plan it to be a Dom copy, and I can never be. But things like that are kind of jumping out of your mouth, and all of a sudden you think, oh, I said something very, very much Famularo-ish. Yeah.
Well, I think when I think of you and Jim and Steph, I think one of the signs of a great teacher is that you could produce great drummers who sound like themselves. And that's what he did with you guys. I could see that. And so his teachings enabled you. He always said, the tools of expression. I'm going to give you the tools of expression. And those tools are just simply words. What you say with the words if you have the mind to say something, right, that's up to you. And so he was able to produce students who play. We all play very differently from each other, and I think that's a testament to him. You know.
I would think so, and that's a sign of a great teacher. If you don't just take one set of skills and techniques and stuff, and you just throw the same stuff of exercises and concepts at everyone, and you focus on the same things with everyone, but you just look at that person. You just like Rick was saying, when Dom was trying to find out as much as he could about you and your background, and he wanted to understand what kind of a person you are. And Dom did this with each and every student. He wanted to find out, okay, who's that guy sitting in front of me? What are his weak spots? What are the strong points? Where does he come from? What's the background? And how does that all go into the picture of what would be the best way for me to teach this person and to really reach the full height of that potential that I see in front of me. And this can only be reached when you look at people. So if you were to ask me what people would get if they have this 1 hour of mentorship session with me, in the first and most important place, I try to educate people to understand their consequences, both on the instrument and on a personal level. If you move like this, you're going to sound like that. If you behave like that when you speak to a company, you're going to get this. It's mechanics which are working both on the instrument or on a social communication level just as well. You need to find out what are the consequences of my actions, and then understand what these other people or the instrument is doing for you based out of your activity. So that, I think, is very important if you want to find a place in the business. You need to think with other people's mind, and you need to understand the consequences of what you do in any possible dimension.
Yeah, very, very wise, and a great opportunity to have with you. So all of us have been teaching quite a while, and Klaus, I think you and I, and Jim, I know you've had tons of great students. I was thinking about Annika, with you, and I had Mark, Juliana, and just to get on the other side of seeing one of our students, succeed on that level. And I was just thinking about how deep it is. And Dom's the one who inspired me to be a teacher. And I was thinking things just pop into my head that he would say. And one thing that just popped into my head that he said, I don't know if I can say this without getting emotional, but one time I had gone to see Mark play. This was a few years ago. And I was he's just so great. I was telling Dom, he's so great. I sort of can't believe I had anything to do with that. It's just amazing. I'm like sitting there, I'm so moved, and Dom said, how do you think I feel when I hear you play?
Yeah.
It was like, so beautiful, and we're so fortunate to be part of that. It's like, I've always said playing is this thing we have to do. It's an instantaneous feeling that nothing like it is in human life feels like that. But working with someone like I'm sure you felt working with Annika and Jim with your students, like it's like planting a tree, and then 30 years later, you're like, wow, that came from that little seed. That's amazing.
Very true. And at times I still can't believe, and this is another Dom quote, I still cannot believe that I'm feeding a family out of bashing metal, plastic, and wood. It's I need to pinch myself and say, is that really possible? Am I doing like this for a living here, and this works? Yes, it can work, but you need to push the right buttons, and there's a couple of things that you need to be aware of. But it is possible still today.
Right.
Can I just really quickly comment, Klaus, your solo at PASIC, if anybody was there, they know. If you weren't there, his solo, which was a dedication, was so beautiful. Frank Perry said it best. He said, that's the first time I've heard a drum solo that moved me to tears. So I just wanted to mention that while we had you in the spotlight. So yeah,
Oh,
beautiful solo. We heard Dom in the solo. Great.
That's wonderful. Before we move on to Paul and Andy, I do want to say he was also at the first clinic I ever saw. He played a solo, and a young boy raised his hand. I was only 13, or no, I was 19. It wasn't me that raised my hand. I was too busy picking my face up off the floor from the solo that Dom just played. But someone raised their hand, and it was a young boy, and he asked, "How did you get your feet that fast?" And Dom said, "Well, that's a very good question, Johnny. How old are you?" And Johnny said 14 or something. And of course, Dom said, "Johnny, I have underwear older than you. I'm wearing them." It's like, this guy's going to be my teacher. Paul, welcome.
Yes, sir.
Paul Quinn's joining us today, entertainment attorney that works with many very well-known drummers. So, Paul, thank you for being part of the mentorship. I know you and Dom grew very close. And for those who don't know, Dom and Paul worked closely together on the board of the sessions. So maybe you could start with, what was it like to collaborate with Dom working on events at the sessions, and what were some of the things that you saw in him that maybe just beyond just drumming from your perspective? And for those who don't know, Paul's also a drummer, so he's got that too.
I do have that going for me, allegedly. I think all of us can agree that Dom didn't just mold musicians, he molded people. And the more time you spent with him, the better a person you became. And I can count on the fingers of one hand, and maybe less, frankly, the number of people in my life that have had such a profound influence on who I am. And that became all through the sessions. I mean, one of the advantages with the sessions is it's not just 2 hours on a panel. We would be flying somewhere, we would be well looked after in terms of dinners and breakfasts and preparation, and then the panel. And I wrote in shortly after Dom passed, I wrote something on Facebook that said I spent an enormous amount of time with him, and I never tired of that time, not one to. And I'm a little antisocial, I think sometimes, and there are very few people. For example, so in fact, we were going to visit Klaus. We'd done a sessions event in Paris and Rick was there with Manu Katché, and we were leaving to drive in a bus all the way to Dinkelsbühl, right, to go and do a sessions event with Klaus. Some of the sessions folks took the train, but Dom and I and some others, we took the bus, and it was 9.5 hours on a bus. And Dom and I sat at the table at the back, and we just talked the entire way. And there wasn't a single moment in that 9 hours where I was like, "Oh man, wish you'd stop talking. I need to go." It was just, it was phenomenal. And I think the more I think about it, we all know Dom was a great businessman. I mean, just in terms of those essential business skills of being able to keep track of what you're doing, making personal relationships. But what made Dom special was those intangibles of business. And Klaus mentioned before integrity and honesty and truthfulness. And all those things were just part of who he was. When he asked you a question, it wasn't to fill space. It was because he was genuinely interested in finding out. And, one of the things we teach kids on the sessions is if they're going on the road, if they're going to tour, that 2 hours on stage you can do that for free, right? And there's 1,000 drummers that can do that gig. The question is, why should you get the gig? And it really comes down to that remaining 22 hours. How are you on the bus? How are you in the hotel? How demanding are you? How much can you, keep everybody happy? Can you mediate disputes? Dom was masterful at all that. I mean, just masterful. There was all time spent with him was valuable. And something else, another one of those intangibles of the business aspect, is Dom was not only highly intelligent, but he was funny.
Yeah.
Dom was truly, truly one of the, I don't remember, they all say as we get older, we don't laugh as much as when we were kids. I have cried laughing more with Dom maybe than anybody else. And I'll tell a quick story. So we were tired. We had a very early call for a plane. Again, it was actually after leaving Klaus. We had a 2.5 hour car ride, 6 o'clock lobby call, and I think we'd actually been sampling some fine German ale the night before, so it may have been 1:30 or 2 before we got back to the hotel. And I was telling him a story of this kid I'd known growing up who had a very unfortunate name. That she was called Ruby Pearl, and she married somebody by the name of David Diamond and kept her name, and she was called Ruby Pearl Diamond. So that was my story. At which time Dom decides to chime in with, do you remember Alan Funt, who did the TV show? I don't know if it was the Gong Show or one of those other TV shows. Do you remember him? He said, well, don't forget that in later life, he married Ella Fitzgerald. And I'm saying, really? He goes, yeah, that made her Ella Funt. Which stage I remember thinking, that just came out of nowhere at 7:30 in the morning. And I laughed for 25 minutes probably. So those things, right? So yes, you can know how to do your numbers. You can know, I'm setting aside Dom's playing, we all know how great that was. I'm really talking about what made him who he is to all of us, because frankly, we all could have had great drum teachers, but I don't think any of us could have had life coaches at the same time like we managed to have with Dom. So, but those intangibles are the things that strike me as to just how special he was. Unique, none of us can fill his shoes. And even together, our collective personalities, wisdom, and experience only adds up to 3/4 of a Dom. So, it's just, one of those things. And I am more than delighted to help with this mentorship. I will tell you, I've been privileged to represent many, many, many musicians and many, many, many drummers over my career. And it is astounding, often, even the more professional and successful, how little they know about how to protect themselves in the music industry. And if I can get somebody at the start of their career, or at least before the money has started rolling in, I am delighted to help them and to do so in the name of Dom.
That's great. And having your expertise for someone to ask, questions, and for you, I assume, Paul, you'll even ask of them questions so you can find out what they may not know they need to know.
Yes, of course. Yeah, I think I'm pretty much an open book. I know everybody on this call, and I'm pretty accessible, and I think I'm easy to talk to. I may be completely delusional, maybe I'm not. But regardless, yes, I want to know where they are, what stage they're at, where they want to go to, and everybody's got a, every 18-year-old remarkable drummer has a 10-year plan, right? All of them do. Oh yeah, in 10 years' time, I want to be playing for the next generation of Sting and playing in stadiums. But what most of them don't have is a 5-year plan, a 3-year plan, a 2-year plan, a 1-year plan, a 6-month plan, a 30-day plan, and a 7-day plan. And in the absence of those, you can't get to your 10-year plan. So I would like to help people negotiate that pathway.
Wonderful. Thank you, Paul.
Oh, you're more than welcome. Thanks, everybody. It's great to see everyone.
Yeah. So Andy, we come to you, and thank you for being here again. You were with us session number 1, and I thought maybe what I wanted to ask you to maybe talk about is something that I've been thinking about was when I met Dom, at 19, he was with SABIAN, but it was quite a while ago, and I thought maybe since you and he spent so much time together, and I guess being his student at that age, I was not aware. I looked up to him so much, but I wasn't aware that he was still in this mega building mode.
Yeah.
When I met him in 1990, to where he got to was incredible. So I thought I'd ask you to talk about what he was like when he first started working with Sabian, and then how you saw him grow, change, and improve what he did over that time, up until the end.
Sure. Well, when he started with this, he sold us pretty quickly because not only did he have energy, but he had a vision. He knew where he wanted to go, and that to have that vision, and not just a fanciful, I want to be this, but as Paul was saying, this is what I want to be. This is how I'm going to achieve it. This is how you can help. This is what I will do to benefit you. Wow, I've never seen anybody approach the education, the motivation, and percussion drumming that same way. And so Dave McAllister, who at that point was our VP of marketing, he absolutely loved the whole thing. Was talking with my dad, and he said, actually, it brings to mind a quote that the old man had. He said, having a vision without persistence and dedication is just a dream. And so knowing that not only did he have the persistence, but he had dedicated himself enough to be able to give us the plan as to how this was going to work and how we could help and we could all mutually grow our whole community. It was clear that we had to be a part of this. Otherwise, not only would we be missing out, but we wouldn't be helping to bring that energy, positivity, and vision to what was just going to be better for everybody. So yeah, easy choice. Did I see him grow? Of course, because he was achieving those goals, and he would set them out, and he would hit them and keep going and going. And his influence on everybody, I mean, it's obvious. Look at everybody here. Look at how well he has influenced so many people. And starting from that day back in, I think it was 1988. If that was the year, maybe it was 87, that we had the trade show that was down in Atlanta. That was when we first met Dom, and from that point, it was an idea from a guy who was doing clinics to where are we today? He had the steps, he did them, and thank God we were allowed to come along and be a part of that ride.
So when he started off as he was, you just said, great player, and then you and Bob met him, and I would be at NAM or different places, and I would see him meeting with you guys, and I just did you sense that he just had, you could see he was a great player, you could see he was funny, you could see he was a good teacher, all that, but did you sense that like he just seemed to have an innate understanding of how this industry worked?
It's and yes, you're right, but it wasn't just the industry. It was because he understood people as well too. And I mean, that's all we are. We are people of a passion that are focused on one instrument, and he understood people. So even if you weren't part of, like, Dave McAllister never played a drum. I would be surprised if he knew which end of the drumstick to hold, except that he's been in, around this industry for 40 years. So I think he could figure it out. But aside from that, would have had absolutely no idea how good Dom was, what he was really talking about, except that the plan was so easy to envision and clear steps that I mean, now I've lost my point. You got me thinking too much.
Rick, maybe you could chime in too, as far as Dom's, when he would advise manufacturers, dealers, everyone seemed to know what to tell people to do to get to the next level. Any
What actually I can say some of the things that if you don't mind, Rick, me stepping in for a sec, what he was, some of the things some of the things that I always think about, and he's actually, it's gotten to the point now where I don't even think of where it came from, but it did come from Dom, was to understand, first of all, what are you going to do to improve the community, right? That was always something that was in his mind. What are you going to do to improve the community? And then it was, he let us understand that we could have permission to take the time and the space to think creatively and create a vision. And by having that time, we could catch up to some of the things that he was looking to have us do, delegate to any one of us and say, this is something that I would like to have us achieve. For example, SEN, right? Gave us the time. He sort of led the idea of we need to improve, we need to improve. Okay, so what am I going to do to improve this community? And then gave the time and the space and the support to be able to come up with a vision. And then all of a sudden he's like, great, let's do it. Joe, tag, you're it, right? So delegation is absolutely huge to everything that you want to do. And he was very clear on that you can't do everything, but as a group, we can do anything.
Yeah, I think that he was expert at bringing in a SABIAN to a Vic Firth, to Evans, to Remo later on, and on, so that we worked collaboratively and were able to achieve more as a group as opposed to on our own. And I think that that helped grow the community quite a bit.
Also, for those who don't know, when early on when I got involved with SABIAN, Dom had a program. It's called NEP, the National Education Program, and Vic Firth was involved too. And what's interesting is that he had a consistency of vision over time. So even if one program kind of got to the end of its usefulness, he had a way of understanding how to pivot to achieve, you know, in some ways the same goals, but with a fresh approach to that, right? And NEP was, you know, he picked out certain people in different parts of the world that would go out and do these clinics, represent the companies, and it turns out that it was almost like a minor league baseball team, because Chris Stanke who's worldwide director of artist relations for SABIAN now, was an NEP guy. John Whitman, who's in that position at Yamaha, NEP guy, you know, and on and on. And Klaus, did you do that?
I was well aware of it, and I didn't do much for it, but it was on the radar. We were speaking about that. It was just that back then I didn't have that international reach, but it was very much like I remember well NEP. That's sure.
Yeah, that's great. Charmaine, we're glad you're here, and you know, any thoughts about this mentorship and all these stories?
I think you're back on your phone microphone.
Jim, help her out.
No. And Jim, you're muted, just so you know.
I'm not on my phone this time. It says the iMac built-in microphone.
Now you've muted yourself.
Yeah,
Sure. Okay, try that.
There we go. Try that.
Perfect.
Yay. So, you know, the exciting thing for me to see is everyone here are the people that Dom chose to work with side by side. And he's giving this mentorship, and SABIAN is giving people an opportunity to work with the people that he chose to work with the most. And it's just such an exciting concept, because SABIAN's been there all along with Dom, and they were a part of this journey to empower others, to empower musicians, to bring them to a different level. And like all of these people you're witnessing, all of them that you witnessed in the last one, those are the people that rose with him and helped him rise. And it's just such an exciting opportunity. I so hope everyone applies for this mentorship, because it's such a, priceless. Oh my God, priceless.
Well, we have quite a few applications already, and for sure, you know, now's the time to get everything in, and we're going to have our hands full. We have to, you know, watch all these videos, and it's, you know, it's going to be an organic process. I do anticipate that we'll feel like there'll be many people who we'd like to help, but we're gonna select that one person, and I really do think whoever that person is going to be really fortunate, you know, to be
And
part
honestly, hopefully this can branch into even something more. That nothing would make Dom happier than this to branch into something more.
Right.
for sure, for sure. Well, you guys have any other, that I think people can see how valuable this is going to be. Any good Dom stories we want to share from the panel? Anything you can, anybody come prepared with us? Klaus has one, I can see. Go first.
Oh, I always have one, but just and it kind of I mean we were, this is both of us traveling in my car in Germany, like crazy long ago, 20 years, I don't know. So we're doing a bunch of clinics together, and we're like really tired. I mean, we're setting up our own drums. I have 2 sets of drums in the back of my car. I'm doing the driving. I'm doing the organization. I'm doing all of this. We got support from Pearl and M&T and SABIAN and all of that back in the day. But it was, I mean, it was hard work, and I was exhausted and still driving. So I'm driving in that car late at night, and Dom is drilling me with all kinds of questions. And he says, "Hey, how about your in-laws? They seem to have this restaurant and that little hotel and all of that. So how is Julia feeling about that? Does she want to take that, and does she want to do that like one day?" And I think to myself, boy, this time he's really going deep, right? And he goes further down the wormhole and all of that. And I'm giving elaborate answers, and I'm trying to find the words, but and all of a sudden I see there's no reaction from him, and I look at like next to me, and he goes like and and that was literally the only time when I noticed that Dom was falling asleep. It was just like you pushed a button and it went like that. It was not like a slow process in which you felt the person you would speak to goes a bit slower and turns to be out sleepy. With Dom, it was just 110% or or that. And that was so funny. And anyhow,
That was
just my
like
little thing.
similar to his when he told me jet lag. I'm like, you traveled all over the world, you must be exhausted. He's like, jet lag now. I just decided not to get that anymore. It's
Well, he always used to deny that he would ever sleep on a plane. But we have photographic evidence to show that's
Nice.
not true. And if he hadn't denied it, no one would have taken the pictures. But the denials led to many pictures.
I think that Paul, I think he would suss out where you were coming from before he would say that, because I always told him I would love to sleep better on planes. And I would ask him, you ever fall asleep in one airport and wake up in the next airport? Like you sleep that well? You slept through the takeoff? And he's like, oh, all the time. I do that. Like every time I go to here. Rick, you have one?
Yeah, I've got a quick one. This was back when I was at Vic Firth, and I was coming down to New York to do some dealer visitations, and I came down on a weekend on a Saturday, and I called Dom and I said, "Hey, I'm going to be in town for 2 or 3 days. You want to get together?" He said, "Yeah, you want to go hear some music?" I said, "Well, yeah." He said, "Well, who do you want to hear?" I said, "You know what, Dom? Today's Saturday, and I think you and I should go visit a bunch of weddings, because nobody gives the wedding drummer any love, right?" So that's what we did. There was a couple of big banquet houses down on Long Island. I was at Leonard's or something like that, and whatever it was. And so we hit, it was about 6 weddings that we just walked in on, and we went and stood next to the drummer and just watched him until he looked up. And, he would recognize Dom more often than not, and nobody knew who I was. But this, "Dom, what are you doing here?" And then he would introduce me. He said, "This is Rick Drum from Vic Firth, and we are doing our annual stick bag check to see what everybody's using." And anyways, I can't tell you how much wedding cake we got that day. And of course, a few drinks along the way, and then I sent the drummer some sticks. And the band directors, the guys that were leading the band said, "Who are you guys? Why are you here?" Anyways, it was a good. We had a lot of fun.
that when I get around to writing the book about Dom, Rick, we're gonna have a chapter called Wedding Crashers, and that's going in.
That's great.
You know, Joe, I have one thought, and this is really just not for the panelists, but for everybody who's listening. So how many people, I'm just curious to know, have photographs on their phone of Dom's nose, teeth, this particular part of his hand?
Yeah.
Because if you ever went to the bathroom or left your phone on the table, you came back to incredibly close-up pictures or potentially improper pictures, which were actually usually his hand. I was scrolling through my phone, I want to say 2 or 3 weeks ago. I've got about 70 of those because I never delete pictures. So, I mean, I guess that means I'm too trusting and I leave my phone. But I mean, how many people have those pictures on their phone? I know Shah does. Yeah.
Those go in the book, Joe.
Andy, what about you?
No, I was careful not to leave my phone around Dom.
By the way, I have Dom's hard drive from when we were doing Why Hunger, but also Nandi Bichel's little this sort of collaboration. So, and there's a lot of really funny one-liners on here that I'll try to pull from the footage, just of Dom, you know, doing multiple takes and laughing and saying crazy things. And so, if I have permission, Charmaine, you know, I have that hard drive.
Great. Andy, you have another Dom story you want to share, or
Dom story? Oh, I wasn't thinking about it. I was laughing at the last one.
okay.
No, it's just I was thinking about, you know, when we started SEN and how he was pushing the idea, but he was never actually saying what to do. He was just saying, what could you do? What could you do? What could we do? Right? God, I love that about him. It was the perfect mentorship because it was never instruction as far as that type of thing was concerned. It was motivation. And go ahead, think more. What else? I love that. It reminds me of that joke where, you know, the people pull up to the drive-through and they say, I'd like to have a hamburger, and the voice comes over asking, and fries, and a Coke, and it just, and he would just keep going and going and going.
For sure. So I'm gonna share my story before we close. My story is, you want to hear how deeply. So Dom and I talked about everything but everything, and I met him actually before I got engaged to my wife, Kim. Love my life, and so I had dated some other girls before, obviously, and usually they came to my drum lesson at Long Island Drum Center with me. So I'd go to my lesson at Long Island Drum Center. Dom would, of course, always be, I knew it was going to be an all-day event because I lived in New Jersey. It was like 2 hours to get out there. He was always running like a minimum of an hour late, sometimes 2 hours late. So I'd get there and he'd pull out some cash out of his wallet and he's like, go check, pull the guys at the counter, go to the North Belmore Deli and get everybody lunch and bring it back here. And he'd give me a bunch of money, and then I'd eat lunch, and it would be like an all-day hang with drummer. I knew every drummer on Long Island at the time. We'd be eating lunch, and then we didn't know, my family didn't know anybody in the music business. So when my dad, came with me to the first lesson, he's like, here, this is an Italian guy from Long Island. And sometimes I had my lesson after this guy, Jim Vallone, who his family owned a bakery in Carteret, New Jersey. And while Dom would be imparting me with the wisdom of the music business, Vallone would have brought cannoli shells and cream separately. And Dom would just be stuffing cannolis and handing them to me. And I'm like, listening to Dom, so I brought, probably, I would say 3 of my previous girlfriends. And this is the level of impact Dom had on my life. I'm not kidding when I tell you. So finally, Kim came with me, and we were pretty serious at the time. And she came to the lesson. Dom met her. As always, he would ask questions and stuff. Next week, I came back from my lesson after having met Kim at the previous week. And he said, I walked through the door for my lesson. He says, you screw this one up, I'll kill you.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, he was right. He was right on that and so many things. Anyway, thank you guys for being a part of it, and thank all of you for coming to listen. And I know most of you that I see your names in our audience and your faces also were close with Dom and friends with him. So thank you for being here. And again, I just want to, reinforce that we want people to sign up for this, make it a really strong showing for this. This is not only great for whoever wins and whoever we choose to receive the prize, but this is a really potentially precedent-setting thing that we're doing here. It's really powerful, and a lot of you on this meeting, if you feel like sharing it on your social media, don't wait for an event like this. Just say, hey, Sabian's doing this, and in the spirit of Dom and whoever that you think might benefit from. The 31st of this month is the deadline, so we want to get those applications in. Charmaine, thank you for being here with us again. Great to see you.
I am so grateful to be here, and I'm so grateful for all of your stories. It's just, it fills your heart. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And Andy, thank you for being here and for, Sabian taking Dom's advice all these years. It's led to a few good things.
Can this come into focus there?
Oh, hold it back. Hold it back.
Hold it back.
Oh,
No.
God, it's not working.
Oh, yeah.
There we go. This is Dom in the beginning of the whole thing.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow. Nice. Yep.
That is
I
great.
have a vision. What is it, Dom? You're going to be part of it. Okay.
It's great. Jim and Paul, Klaus, Rick, thank you so much for not only being here today, but participating in this and giving your wisdom. We're going to have our work cut out for us next month when we evaluate all these applicants. And thank you everybody who's already sent people in. I want to specifically acknowledge Marco over in Italy, who's single-handedly had probably about 20 people sign up. So thank you, Marco. We appreciate that. It's great. And we'll keep you posted. Next month, we have a pretty exciting SEN session. Nick Collins is going to be joining us for an SEN session next month. I'm a huge fan, so I'm really excited. And he gave his first drum clinic at PASIC. And if you saw that clinic, you would not believe it was his first drum clinic. He was so well spoken. And also he played the 2 exact Genesis songs that I was hoping he would play. So I was like Mr. Fanboy, and he still spoke to me. So he's going to come on SEN, and he's going to be with us next month. So it's going to be great. We'll see you there. Thanks, everybody. We'll keep you posted on the results of the mentorship. And everyone enjoy the holiday season. And, by the way, also enjoy the new Sabian line Stratus that just came out. If you haven't checked them out, go on the website, look for the sound samples. I posted some soloing on my socials, but they're wonderful. So check out Stratus, and we'll see everybody, on the next session. And everybody have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks, everybody. Much love.
Everybody.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.